Hi everyone, and welcome back to Lavender Cottage Fibre Arts podcast. Thank you for clicking on this video. This is going to be, I'm pretty sure it's our 17th episode of just our sort of standard mostly knitting podcast. I think I only have knitting today. Do you just have knitting today?
Have knitting today.
Yeah. But sometimes we have like crochet or embroidery or sewing. Or Pia does a bit of ceramics as well. So it's just kind of like a craft podcast, but mostly fibre arts related. Before we go into the episode, we would like to acknowledge that we're recording this video on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and also extend our respect to their elders past, present and emerging, in addition to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who happen to be watching this video. My name is Anna.
And Pia.
And if it's not obvious, we are twin sisters, identical twin sisters from Naarm or Melbourne in Australia. So yeah, thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome if you're new to our channel, and if you do like the video, make sure to subscribe before you leave. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back, and thanks for clicking on another one of our videos. For these episodes, we just kind of follow a standard format of like finished objects, works in progress, and then sort of future plans. But I think before we get into our hot off the hooks, which is what we call our FOs section, I do have a what I'm wearing today.
Yes.
So this is, I actually finished this a few months ago, but I wasn't able to share it because it was a secret test knit that I did. So the name of the garment, and I know you can't see that much, and there's not sort of like, if I stand up, I'll literally be like right up against the camera. So I'll put in a photo of like a full length photo of me wearing it. This is I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it, but it's either Sunda or Sunda or Sund, but it's Sunde is the name of this garment. And it is a design from Susanna Kartinen, who is Sana & Co. And she is currently based, like she's a knitwear designer. She's based in Australia, but she's actually originally from Finland. And she's actually Inari Sami. So the name of the jumper, Sunda, or I'm not sure how you say it, actually is the Inari Sami word for direction. Because as you can see, like it is quite, I guess, like graphic, that it has these sort of vertical stripes and like the sort of pointed V-neck, and the ribbing on the collar. So I guess that's kind of where she got inspired for the name. And this pattern, so I knit it for her as a test knit, but it's now been published in the new book for Lane Publishing, which is called Nordic Knits. So I believe at the moment that is the only place you can purchase the pattern, but I could be wrong, but I think from memory she said that after a period of time she will also get the rights to publish it independently.
So on like Ravelry or Etsy or something like that. I'm allowed to now talk about it because the book has been published, and I think that is a thing that I've heard, that Lane Publishing, they basically put all of the patterns for their books under embargo, so the designers and the test knitters can't share anything about the pattern until the publication has been maybe not released, but at least announced by Lane Publishing. So I'll just give a few details about it. It is a fingering weight jumper, and I knit it. You obviously need 3 different yarns. Although I think some people in the test group did, for the stripes, they use like a few different minis. So I think there's obviously kind of like room to play. Or some people used a yarn that was like quite variegated, so it kind of, even that they were actually using the same yarn, but it had the effect of different coloured stripes. So for my main colour, I just used some yarn from Bendigo Woollen Mills, their luxury 4-ply, and I think the colour is called Frost, but it's just kind of like their white colour. For my first contrast colour, the vertical stripes, I used some
not Hedgehog, sorry, that's the other one. HodgePodge. I get confused between Hedgehog and HodgePodge. HodgePodge Skeins.
Hedgehog or like
Hedgehog. Something. Oh God, now you confuse me. HodgePodge Skeins, and their 4-ply base in the colorway Sapphire. So I think maybe on the camera it kind of looks black, but it's actually a very dark blue.
Yeah, you
and
can see in person. It's like a navy kind of, and there is a bit of
a sort of tonality to the color. Like you can see it does have some sort of depth to it as well, but I think from a distance it kind of looks black. And then for my second contrast, which is just used for like the just the last 2 rounds of the cuff, and then also the hem,
the waistband,
and the neckband, I used Hedgehog Fibres, their sock yarn in the colorway UFO, because I don't know, I kind of feel like a fancy tennis player in this jumper.
Yeah, it
so
does look a bit sort of sporty, like tennis, like you're going to Wimbledon. Or
yeah,
something.
exactly. That's why I thought this color would be good. So the Bendigo Woollen Mills I bought for the project, but the other 2 were just ones that I had in my stash. So just a little bit of I guess info about this pattern. Obviously, to achieve the vertical stripes, it is knit flat, and it's knit kind of from not from side to side, but it is knit flat. And the construction was very interesting, and I think to me seemed quite complicated, but because the pattern is very well written, it kind of talks you through it all. So you actually do a provisional cast on in the middle of the back, and then you knit like the back from the middle towards the edge, and then you pick up that provisional cast on. Those stitches are live, obviously, so then you pick it up and knit the rest of the back again, and then you do a provisional cast on in the middle of the front piece, and then again knit out to the side, and then pick up, like cast on, do a knitted cast on of more stitches, and then pick up the back stitches, and then knit sort of to the top of the shoulder. And then you do the same on the other side, and then you seam the sides are actually seamed with a 3 needle bind off, so you actually don't have to seam the sides even though it's knit flat. And then you obviously pick up the sleeves, the neck and the hem, and knit those in the round, but probably like 90% of the garment is knit flat. And I knit it on, I think, a 2.75mm needle. I think the recommended, I do remember I had to size down by quite a few needle sizes, but it is a lot of knitting, and I think if you don't like purling, like stay away from this, because
it's flat.
Yeah, there's so much, but like that's really the only way to get the vertical stripes, unless you, like, I guess you could get vertical stripes if you knit in the round and did like a duplicate stitch.
Sort of almost like embroidered it on.
Yeah, but that's kind of the way that you could get. But I did enjoy the pattern, and I think I liked that it was like a different construction to anything that I've ever made before. Like it was just like quite
I guess just learning new skills or
yeah and I knit the size 5 of this, and I used, I think, for the first contrast color I used about 70 grams, and then the second contrast color I used only about 8 grams, I think. So I think this jumper would actually be a really good one if you had like a sock set that was like 100 gram skein and a 20 gram mini. I think you could actually get probably up to about size 7 or maybe even size 8. You would have enough yarn for the contrasts just with one. Like if you had a really special sock skein but you didn't want to use it for socks, I think this could be. And then, like, I guess because I used a bit more of a sort of like a budget friendly yarn for the main color, it just means that it wasn't a super expensive project. So I think that's probably enough information, I guess, just because sorry, I did talk a lot about it, but I guess because I haven't shared it ever as like a whip or anything. And I'll put a photo. I think I already have a photo on my Instagram of me wearing the jumper from a bit further away, so you can see how it looks. But I've been wearing it a fair bit to like work and stuff, but just haven't worn it in any kind of like knitty environment. So yes, that is what I'm wearing. So I think we can move on to our next section now,
which is hot off the hooks.
Yes.
Well, I suppose this was kind of part of. This is what I'm wearing. Lukewarm off the hooks because you finished it a while ago.
Yes, it's not hot. It's not hot off the hooks. So yes, we will jump into the next section.
So now we have hot off the hooks, which is our segment to talk about finished objects, which I don't have anything finished, but I believe you have a couple of FOs or finished objects to show.
I definitely do. I have 3 pairs of socks. I actually have also finished another top, but that is also a secret test knit, so I won't be able to share that until sometime in the future, and I can't remember when the pattern will be released, but I think it won't be for like several months. So these first pair of socks are my Brisbane socks. I'll just hold up a little bit closer because I think it does have a bit of it's a bit of a textured sock.
What can you
maybe going behind the sock together? So it actually, I guess maybe I might also put these on after we finish recording and get Pia. It's actually very hard to take photos of your own feet, I find. I might get Pia to take some photos because I think on the blocker maybe you can't see very much, but it does have like this sort of chevron pattern that then obviously continues around on the other side. So I think maybe you can see it better, like sort of.
And I suppose because one of the like chevron things is like it
kind of disappears on the edge of the blocker. So it has sort of this chevron with some little eyelets as well, and it does have that on the back, but only one of the repeats rather than 2 chevrons. It's just got 1 chevron down the back. So this was a pattern that I tested for Kath, who is Kath Martin Designs, I think, on Ravelry, and then the Mindful Melbourne Maker on YouTube and Instagram. So yeah, she's just going around Australia, I guess, making different sock patterns for different cities.
So what cities have you done so far?
I've done Canberra, Brisbane, and also Darwin, which I'm going to show as well.
Oops, sorry. If you could hear a noise, that was just Susie, one of the dogs, doing her little little tap dancing. And here she comes. I don't know if she's going to come and be in the video though.
No, she's just inspecting the ladder, which Pia was just changing a light globe before. So yeah, I tested this for her. I'm pretty sure in our last episode I had basically almost finished it. Like I think I was literally a few rows away from finishing it. So the yarn I used for this is from NNK Yarns. She's an Etsy seller who is actually based in Brisbane. That's why I chose to use it for this socks. And this was her sock set from Christmas of last year. So I don't think it has a specific colorway name that I can recall.
Like the name is
just Christmas sock
2023.
Set. And then so with Kath's designs, I think she likes to offer people a few different choices. So I opted to just do the sort of standard slip stitch heel flap. But I think there was also an option for a Flegel heel. And then the only other thing with this one, I ran out of yarn when I was doing the toe, so I actually had to rip back the toe, and I actually done, but I think you can barely even notice it, I've actually done the first 2 rows of the toe in the main colour.
That like the sort of eyelet thing finishes.
Yeah, just before
the green bit
But
starts.
I honestly don't think anyone would notice that unless I pointed it out to them, and it will be in the shoe. Yeah, it will be in the shoe. So I think
unless
that's fine.
you are going to wear socks with like Birkenstock sandals.
You never know. I might.
It seems to be like a bit of a
I think Birkenstocks are very in. Well, in some ways, I'm like, if I put so much effort into knitting these socks,
maybe you should get some like clear shoes.
There is I think Uggs, the Ugg boot brand of shoes. They make these clear
like gumboots.
But I think they're boots. Very, very hard to buy. Like someone in my knitting group said that she got a pair from her kids, like I think it was probably really from her husband, for Mother's Day, but they had to get them on Amazon, and I think they were like quite expensive. So they're my Brisbane socks. And then so the next pair that I finished, this is another test for Kath, sorry, those ones I have blocked. These next 2 pairs, I've got them on blockers, but they're not blocked yet. So I think maybe the eyelets maybe look slightly wonky, but I think you can still get the idea of it. So these are her Darwin sock pattern that I've just finished testing. So it's another fingering weight sock. And I guess because Darwin is in the tropics, in the northern part of Australia, I've personally never been there. Pia has though.
Yes, but I was only recently there for a very short period of time. I was there on their cracker night though, when they had all the fireworks. When you're allowed to do fireworks. So it was a bit of a crazy night.
Well, I don't think these socks really speak to that, but I guess because it being like a very hot tropical climate, Kath made a pattern that has like all this sort of eyelet design all over the leg and then in the top of the foot, and it's kind of hard to see, but there is actually a tiny little row of eyelets halfway through the cuff as well, which I've never seen before, so that was something cool to do. And then in terms of with the different options, this one I think had an option for just a standard slip stitch heel flap. I think it might have had either a Flegel or an afterthought heel. But it also had this option to do this type of heel, which I don't even know if it has a name.
If I need to just like cover my face.
Maybe I'll just... so it has these sort of long floats that you carry on the outside of the sock. Just thought it was just something... I just decided to try it because it was something a little bit different. In all honesty, I think it looks more effective in like a semi-solid or a tonal. Like I think like other people who were in the test who did it in like a tonal or a semi-solid, I think it looked a lot better. I think in this variegated yarn, it maybe just looks a bit busy. So like I don't sort of dislike it, but I think if I was knitting these again, I would either switch to like a tonal colour for the heel flap, or I would just do the sort of standard slip stitch heel flap. Either way, and I think she also did have an option to have some slip stitch detailing on the top of the toe with this sock as well, but I just did like a plain toe. So yeah, these are my Darwin socks, and this one unfortunately I can't quite remember the yarn details. It was just like a single skein of yarn in my stash that the label had come off of it, so I don't remember where it's from, but I did just pick this colour because I thought it is quite sort of tropical. Yeah. So they're my Darwin socks, so I'll block them tomorrow probably, and then this is my last pair of socks. I can't quite remember if I had these as a whip in our last episode. Do you remember seeing these?
This like blue yarn looks familiar.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I just really got the urge to make like a scrappy sock. And I don't know why, I just had this idea of like blue, different coloured blue. So like a scrappy but monochromatic scrappy, with then just like a neutral colour for the cuff, heel and toes. So for the cuff, heel and toes, I've used, I had some leftovers from some yarn that I used for another pair of socks. So this is from Fluff and Nonsense. It's her BFL sock yarn, and the colourway is called Cocoa, if I'm not mistaken. So it's BFL is Blue Face Leicester, so it's not a merino, but it's still like I think it's a 75-25 or an 85-15, like it's a sort of wool nylon blend, so you perfect for socks, but just a little bit sturdier. I don't know, do you think if that feels like the BFL, I think it is slightly toothier than, like it's not quite as soft as the merino, but
I mean, it's hard to tell, just like such a small thing. Like
yeah, I'd have to but I think it's actually really good for socks. Like it makes it very sturdy and hard wearing. And then I just used a bunch of scraps of different blue yarns that I have. This one I know is from Hugh Loco. It's called About Damn Time, because that was from my the Stephen West mystery sock along that I actually ended up frogging. But the other three, so I have 4 different colours. The other 3 are from scrap packs from Little Woolly, so I actually don't know what they are. The only thing about these socks I thought was worth mentioning, so because I knit them, I normally knit socks on magic loop, and I decided to have another go at using 9-inch circulars, but I know my gauge is a bit looser on the small circumference circulars, so I actually decided to size down a needle size to a 1.75 millimeter, which I think is a US 00 instead of a 2 millimeter, which is a US 0. And I found that it gave me a similar stitch gauge to my gauge on Magic Loop, but my row gauge was quite different. So normally after I've done the sort of decreasing back to the circumference for my foot with my sort of standard sock recipe, I do 48 rounds and then I start the toe. But with these, I think, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I think I have almost 70 rounds before I start for the toe. And you can see as well, like if I there's 60 rounds in the leg, but you can see that like the leg of this sock, I mean, hopefully you can see, is significantly shorter than the leg of this sock. So yeah, my row gauge is quite different. So I think if I do, like, I didn't mind the 9-inch circulars, and I liked it as a way of being able to do like 2 at a time, but not on the same needle. Like I just had 2 9-inch circulars. But I think I need to do a little bit more, maybe some swatching or like experimenting and gauge calculations type of thing. And I haven't blocked these yet, I must say, before I keep going with it. And I don't know, maybe my gauge, since I had probably earlier this year, I had this issue where my gauge loosened up significantly. But I think maybe some of the adjustments I've made to how I hold my yarn has tightened it up a little bit, because the stitch gauge is similar to using like 1.75 on a 9-inch, similar to a 2 millimeter on Magic Loop, but these are a little bit firmer, so I think it's not exactly the same. So I'm wondering if I should actually go back to trying a 2 millimeter on the 9-inch circular. I'm just worried that it will be just like really floppy and too big. But so I think I'm still experimenting a little bit, but I can get it on my foot. It's just firm, and maybe it will grow a little bit when I block it. But so far, I don't know, I really like this sort of idea of doing like scrappy but monochromatic. I don't know, for some reason I just really I think it looks really cool. So I'm very happy with how these turned out. I would have liked it if they were just a slight bit bigger, but yeah, that is, and so I think that's my three FOs. So yes, I guess we will head into our next section. Whip it. Oh, I shouldn't give away the title because we're going to introduce it. Yes. Sorry.
Although if you've seen any of our podcasts before, you already know.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
But we'll see you in a second.
Yes. Okay, so now it's time for Whip It Good, which is WIP is an acronym for work in progress. I'm sure most people who knit or crochet would know that, but it's our section where we share our WIPs. So do you want to go first, Pia?
Yep, so I've just got two to show today. The first one is, if you've watched any of our recent episodes, you will have seen this is my Hue Shift Afghan. Oops, sorry.
I just took my eye out.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I'm an optometrist, so I could.
We need to wear safety glasses to
self-manage
to be in this
my
podcast.
Knitting needle eye injury. I'm sure there is like at least one person every year that goes to the eye and ear.
Oh, from a knitting needle.
From a knitting needle, I'm sure there is. Yeah,
probably. So this is the Hue Shift Afghan, which is from Knit Picks, and I am knitting it in the rainbow pastel colourway using their Brava Sport, which is an acrylic one.
You bought a kit for
yes,
that.
I bought the kit.
Had all the colours for you.
Yes, yeah, and that came with a pattern as well. So yeah, I'm up to doing this stripe will be, because this one was the one where white was like the constant colour all the way up, and so now this next sort of row of squares will be the green. So it's green and cream, green and yellow, then it'll be like green and this sort of like peachy colour, green and pink, and then green and purple. So yeah.
Cool.
So that's that. And I did a bit of work on this when we went for the in Victoria. There was a long weekend because of a football game.
Don't complain
the grand final, which is I guess
work.
would be like similar sort of
to like the
Super Bowl, I guess.
Thing, yeah.
In for people from the States.
In Victoria we get the day not of the match, because the match is always on a Saturday.
The Friday
the day
we
before.
Get a day off work.
Yeah.
So because it was a long weekend, we decided to go for a short little camping trip. So we did some. Didn't you took some like vloggy kind of like videos and stuff? Maybe you could put in some.
Yeah, I think I did while we were driving, and then I forgot about it for the rest of the trip.
Oh, I mean, it was.
And I have a video. There was like a little echidna in our campsite.
Yes, and a kangaroo.
A little kangaroo.
And actually, on the way there, which we didn't go there because it was a bit of a detour, but on the way there, we did pass all these signs for a town that was like on the way there called Cardigan Village.
Yeah, and we were like, oh, it would be so nice
that would be like a.
Well, I think we were like, oh, let's stop at like if they have like
a bakery to stop there for lunch.
Like Australian country towns have like nice bakeries where you can get like a pie or like a vanilla slice or something.
Or muffins or something.
Yeah.
But then you looked it up and
it's literally
like there was nothing there. It was just residential.
A street and like that's it.
Yeah. So we didn't go to Cardigan Village.
But we did stop in a town called Beaufort that had some very nice, the bakery there was really good. They made really, really good hot chips.
If anyone has ever tried it, is that town is the birthplace of the inventor of Vegemite. So depending on how you feel about Vegemite, that could be a positive or it could be a negative if you don't like Vegemite.
And I think they
had a Vegemite museum.
They had it was like a converted like service station, like an old petrol station that is now like a museum dedicated to this guy whose name is Cyril something, I think I remember. Yeah. We didn't actually go there though.
No, because we just kind of stopped.
We were just passing through, so we just got like some chips and a coffee and stuff.
Yeah.
But no, we didn't stop in Cardigan Village for lunch, unfortunately.
But I did a little bit of work on this on our little glamping holiday.
Yes.
And then my other WIP is, so I did have in one of our previous episodes, I talked about a top that I had started knitting called Heart on Fire, which I was knitting with a fingering weight yarn that was a bamboo tencel like combination. But I decided to maybe try and start again this time with a sport weight yarn, because I think the actual pattern was for sport weight, and I think I do like the bamboo tencel one just because it feels very nice and it has like a really nice sheen to it. But I think maybe for my first foray into garment knitting, perhaps trying to knit something that I could not get gauge with the fingering weight yarn, that maybe it's a bit better to start with.
Yeah, because was that I vaguely remember you had your gauge swatch and we measured it, and I think you'd knit maybe a gauge swatch on a few different.
I did 2 different needle sizes,
and then we were sort of working out with stitch counts and trying to figure out which size you should make,
and I just couldn't figure it out.
It seemed to be like it was always going to be like a very rough approximation.
Yeah,
that it was. I don't know, and maybe it's like one of those things where it can be either like way too big or way too small, but it's never going to be like
the correct size. Yeah, and I suppose I think maybe I was just sort of like, oh, I really, really like this yarn, so I really want to use it, but then I kind of was like, actually no, like that would be a waste of time, I guess, to put a lot of like time and effort into making something if it will end up not fitting me correctly.
Yeah. And so
would be quite disappointing. So this is a I should actually say what it is. It's a I've got the slip here for it. It's 60% bamboo, 40% cotton, and the name of it is, I don't know, is that going to focus? Well, now I have to disappear. Maybe not. But it's called, there we go, Cedar by from Fiddlesticks.
Yeah. And the pattern you said is called Heart on Fire.
Yeah.
And who's the?
It's from, is it called Drops Studio or?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure for the other yarn, like we can look on Ravelry
and find,
Yeah, and I think like if you just type in like top into Ravelry, there's going to be like a few thousand results. But if you narrow it down by like the gauge, and like you can even search with like design features that you like want it to have some lace, like if that's what you want. I'm sure we can you know, at least narrow it down to like maybe 100 or something. That's not
Yeah.
that as many. And like you can obviously also filter by like
difficulty or like...
Oh, and also like the pattern is still available, for example.
yes,
it's available in English.
It's, I suppose, preferably available online. Like I don't want to have to buy a whole book of patterns.
And I think maybe as well what might be useful is if you search for something that like the pattern was designed to be used with like a plant-based fibre, because
because you did say that they behave quite differently.
Yeah, like cotton, or sort of plant-based fibres and animal
they
fibres.
They don't have any sort of give to them.
Behave quite differently. So I think, it's sometimes not strictly interchangeable, like that just because you get gauge, if it's a totally different fibre, the garment might not kind of have the a desired sort of outcome.
I guess so. Even if I like found a pattern that was intended to be used with cotton yarn, because that's still like a plant-based fibre.
Yeah, I think it probably would be. I think.
Sorry, I didn't realise that I just kind of started knitting.
You can if you want. I guess like I presume like not all plant-based fibres behave exactly the same, but I think one plant-based fibre would be more similar to another plant-based fibre than it would be to an animal fibre, is kind of how I would assume it kind of works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean I did really like, I suppose like I'll see also when I finish this and like block it, I did really like the yarn that I started using, like seem to have like a very nice drape to it, which I mean hopefully, because this is 40% bamboo, that this will also
have some
like
good
a
drape.
nice, and just seems like it just feels very nice, I guess, against your skin for like a summer top, to be something that feels kind of
I feel
cool,
like that's maybe something that I was maybe a bit like, I don't know if naive is the right word, but like I think in Australia, like the climate here, like you have to be realistic, that even if something has short sleeves, like if it's made of wool, like you will not be able to wear it in the height of summer. The same as like with jumpers, like this jumper, I think a fingering weight jumper is just a lot more practical. In
I suppose
Australia,
if you make
like,
a very thick jumper, that just
you might be able to wear it for
time
like
that
2
you're going to
weeks.
wear it for.
And
I guess
then,
it would obviously depends a little bit on where you live as well.
Yeah, but I think like for the majority, unless you're in sort of like Tasmania
or like in any of the sort of like alpine
like
areas.
Canberra or something, that get like very cold in winter. But it's still like, when we say very cold, like I think
it's not below zero.
No, it's going to be in sort of like up to 10 degrees kind of thing during the day, which I'm sure like people in like Europe and Canada would laugh and say, oh, that's a nice spring day kind of thing. Yeah.
Like wearing a t-shirt or something. But yeah, so they're my two kind of whips at the moment.
Cool. I also just have 2 whips to share. I do have a few more projects on the go, but I just haven't done a significant amount of work that I felt that it made sense to share.
Yeah.
So the first whip I have is a new one, and actually Pia hasn't seen it. So
this is like my live reaction.
And it was inspired by the blue scrappy socks. You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Oh, pink.
Some pink scrappy socks. Do you like them?
Yeah, Susie would like them too.
Oh, yes, Susie can have them.
So Susie is one of the dogs, by the way, and her favourite colour is pink. Well, my favourite colour for her is pink, because she's obviously colourblind.
So yeah, I don't know. I just I really like the concept of monochromatic scrappy socks, so I've decided to start another pair. So I use sort of like a semi-solid for the cuff, and now I'm on the leg. And at the moment, and I think I'll probably just do this for the whole sock. These ones I'm knitting again on Magic Loop, because I think I was just like, oh, I don't know, I need to do a bit more calculations and experimentations to commit to another pair of socks on the 9-inch circulars, or that maybe I should get a 2mm 9-inch circular. So these I'm doing on Magic Loop, just on a 2mm needle, which is my standard thingo. And so I'm just going to change colours every 10 rounds. Because I think then, for the leg, I'll do 60 rounds, and for the foot, with my sort of decrease section and then the sort of plain knitting section, I end up, I think, doing about 64 rows, sort of minus the heel and toe. So I will just do basically 10 rounds per colour, and 4 of those 6 colours I'll do 11 rounds instead of 10. And that will get me sort of, and I don't think that will be noticeable. So I've just picked out 6 kind of pinky different either leftovers or actually most of these, in fact, I think all of these yarns that I'm using are leftovers from the scrappy, the project that I just knit as a test knit, which was another project that was designed for using either scraps or like small amounts of like minis or anything. No, but these
are you allowed to even say what it is?
Well, it's just a top, but like, it's a top made out of like sort of a multicolour sort of scrappy top project.
If you could hear that, someone outside just being a bit angry in their car, beeping.
I don't think so. I don't think it would have come through. But so, yeah, I have a lot of leftovers from that, so I just chose a bunch that I thought looked nice together. And yeah, I just started this the other day, so that is my current sort of like public transport knitting project. And then the other project that I did show on our last episode, but I think I had not knit very much of it, is my broom sweater. So this is a pattern by Andrea Mowry, and the yarn that I'm using is from Woollen Works. It's her DK Suri silk base, so it's a 90-10 Suri alpaca silk blend in a DK weight. And this is from her, like the extras she had from her Barbie collection. So the colourway is called Fur Coat.
Because it's like the colours of Ken's fur coat.
Yes. And I'm knitting the size 5. I guess other details. The recommended needle size is 4.5 millimeters, but I have heard that Andrea Mowry is quite a tight knitter because I actually had to size down to a 3.5 millimeter to get gauge. And so I'll just hold it up. So it has like this really sort of plush, like it's a folded ribbed collar, and then it's just like a raglan basically. So it's sort of like this kind of off-white color with then this sort of charcoal sort of speckles, but on the Suri base, the speckles are like have a bit more of like a, I don't know, like a watercolor kind of effect to them. Like they're not as dark, but also they're not really speckles. It's more just
kind of discreet. It's more just it's sort
like
of
variation.
A bit.
It probably looks closer to what the fur coat actually looks like in real life. Actually, anyway.
Yeah.
So in terms of my progress on this, I had actually just started the collar because I put in this progress keeper when we recorded our last video. So I'd only knit like this much of the collar. So since then I've knit obviously the rest of the collar, and then I've knit probably most of the body, but I've now put that on hold, and I've picked up for one of the sleeves, and I've started knitting one of the sleeves. And the reason that I decided to put the body on hold was that I have heard that alpaca grows quite a bit when you block it. So I decided to basically knit the body down to sort of about my belly button kind of length. And then the sleeves I'm going to knit to about maybe here on my forearm. And then I'm going to put like both the sleeves and the body on the sort of these silicone, the try-it-on tubing, so that then I can block it and then try it on.
Oh, because you don't want to end up with it, you know, going down to your knees or...
I'd rather do that. Have to block
the sleeves go like over your hands.
I think I'd rather block it mid-project than finish it and then have to undo it. And because of the fluff, it is a little bit annoying to tink back. And I think I would just have to tink back. Like I don't think...
Oh, it would be very difficult to pick up the stitches.
I'm finding actually with this DK Suri, and I'm not too sure like what other people's experiences are, and I don't know what you think, Pia. Like I think I can see my stitches fairly easily, but what I find really hard to see is the rows. So I don't think I could just stick my needle into a row of stitches to pick it up like what I could if it was just a sort of merino. I think I would literally have to tink back one stitch at a time.
Oh, which would take forever.
So I'd definitely rather just put everything on hold, block it, see what I think of the length, and then just knit a few centimeters of ribbing. That's what I would rather do. So I've really just started the sleeves. I don't think I've even done one of the decreases yet. I've just started that. So hopefully I can finish this I don't know, in the next month or so. I think I've still got quite a bit of yarn left. I think I have 2 almost full cakes and then one that's sort of maybe about a third of a cake left. I did decide in the end that I did want to alternate the skeins, just because I think one of the skeins that I use had significantly less of the sort of darker flecks than the others. So I just wanted to be able to sort of blend that through the whole project. And I think it's worked out pretty well. Like, I honestly couldn't tell you like where I started to use that skein.
It looks fairly like even. I think.
And I mean, obviously when I'm doing the sleeves, it may look slightly different also, just because of the different circumference. I think even if you do helical knitting, like, to an extent, a slight difference in the pooling is a bit unavoidable.
The sleeve, I guess, is obviously much smaller.
But just to sort of mitigate that as much as possible, I did decide to just helically knit, which has been a little bit challenging with this DK series, I guess, because it's so kind of like grippy. When you are helically knitting normally, like, you just knit, and then when you get to 3 stitches before where the next skein starts, you slip those 3 stitches. So normally, if you're like not really paying attention and just knitting away, you will get to a stitch that feels super loose, because it's actually where your new thread, or like the new ball of yarn, is coming from. But because this is so grippy, like, it's actually like you can just knit past that, and it doesn't really, you don't really feel the change in the tension. So I have once or twice just been knitting away, like while watching TV or something like that, and then realize, haven't been alternating skeins for like 2 rounds or whatever, and then
did you think back?
I just went back to where I should have picked up the new yarn, because I didn't want to then carry it across multiple rows, because that can sort of then make the fabric kind of pucker if you don't leave the yarn kind of like slack enough. So I mean, that was just me not paying attention to what I was doing when I should have.
Could you just put like a stitch marker there or something?
I guess I could if I probably. So I think that's basically all I wanted to say. My only regret with this is that by the time I finish it, it probably will be too warm.
It will be summer,
So
actually, I read something in the news that like this summer in Australia is going to be like super hot. I was like, oh god, don't tell me.
Okay.
Yeah, I started reading this article and then I was like, I can't keep reading this. Like,
I'm much more of a cold weather person than a hot weather person.
I think I stopped reading it the bit when they started talking about like sweaty hot nights, and I was like, no,
please no,
thank you.
But I guess like it will just be a little sort of I think I was watching Kath, the Mindful Melbourne maker, the other day, and she also has like a very sort of fluffy jumper that she's almost finished, and the way she described it is it's just like a little gift for yourself. Like for next winter, you put it away.
I suppose that will be like a fun sort of surprise. It will be like, this is like a new clothing kind of thing. It'll feel like it's new because you haven't worn it before.
Yes, exactly. This is my broom sweater by Andrea Mowry in the Woollen Works DK Surrey in fur coat. So that's they're the 2 whips that I wanted to show. I guess now we will move on to the final section of the podcast.
So now it's time for Dreamweaving, which is our segment where we talk about recent purchases, if there are any, which I think there is just a small little one today, and then any future plans or projects that we're kind of in the planning stages of but haven't made a start on. So do you want to go first, because you've got something show and tell?
I guess also just because we were talking about like the naming of our sections before, when I like almost gave a spoiler alert or whatever. Did you know Dreamweaving is like my favourite section, like in terms of the name?
Just because of the name, that you like picture yourself just like dreaming about weaving.
Yeah, and like also that you're weaving your dreams into reality kind of thing.
And weaving is, I find it's kind of like a dreamy activity.
Yes, everything. So it's, for many reasons, I really do like the name Dreamweaving. And actually, I'll show these purchases, but one of our dreams this time around is actually to do some
literal
weaving.
Yeah.
Yes. So this weekend in Melbourne is the Finders Keepers Market, which is kind of like it's like I wouldn't really call it a craft market, would you?
No.
They're sort of like, I guess, small businesses, that do like a whole range of, like, there's jewelry, clothing, ceramics.
Yeah, like homewares. Like cosmetics and like kind of like personal care, like soap and like toiletries.
Food, like sort of like, sauces and chocolates, but they're all sort of like small, like artisanal makers. Is that what you would call them?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
A friend of mine at work actually described it as like being in like a someone's Pinterest board in real life.
Yeah, that is actually a very like apt description. It really is like being in a
just being in a real life
in
manifestation of Pinterest.
Yeah. So and a friend of mine sent me a code for like a free ticket, because I'm pretty sure it used to be free or maybe just a gold coin for entry, but now it's $6. But she sent me a code for a free entry. And I wasn't going to go because I was like, sort of trying to save money at the moment. And like, I just know myself that I can be very impulsive in those kind of situations, that if I go, like, I'll probably just spend money on like a bunch of stuff that is really nice, but that I don't really need.
I think also maybe it's a bit easy to fall into the trap if you've paid for the ticket to then be like, it's a waste of money if I don't buy. Like, if you just went to, I mean, some people might go to get sort of like inspiration or just a sort of like a social outing if they're going with other people and that sort of thing, but then to be like, I paid for a ticket, so that's a waste of money. Like, I guess that's that sunk cost fallacy, that you've already spent the money on the ticket, you're not going to get it back, so then spending more money on other stuff doesn't
like save you money.
Yeah.
So I decided to go, but I said to myself that I would set a budget of just $30. So basically thinking that I could either get what?
I would think like going to somewhere like that with a bunch of $30, I'd be like, I'll probably walk out empty-handed because there probably is not a single thing. But you obviously did find something that was.
Yes, and I mean, I think the stuff there, like, it's expensive, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's a rip-off. Like,
no.
I feel like for me, my definition of a rip-off is like the cost does not reflect the
like
quality,
something that is expensive might be not good value for money, but something can be expensive and still be a good, like, I don't know if you say good value for money, but like worth the money.
Yeah, because a lot of it is handmade and like very high quality. But so, yes, I basically said $30 because then I was thinking that would probably be one thing, or maybe it would be two very small things. So I did manage to find two things. Yeah. So the first thing is like this enamel pin, and hopefully it will focus. Yes, it has. I could not walk past this one, so it says Craft Enthusiast Club. So I think I will pin that on like a project bag, I think. Would be like a cute little addition to a project bag. And then the other one is just a reusable shopping bag that has a bunch of
Australian kind of symbols.
Yeah.
Like you can see a lamington, a koala.
So I find these, I mean, I use these reusable shopping bags all the time and I never seem to have, or I always feel like when I want one, I don't have one, or they're all full. I use sometimes I use them even to like store yarn in, which I probably shouldn't. Probably just means I have too much yarn. But
I mean, I think also those ones that seem to be made of actual fabric seem to last better. But just the ones that you get from the supermarket, they just fall apart eventually. They don't last for all that long.
Yeah, those was my two purchases from the Finders Keepers Market. There was, I think, and I did sort of do a full lap of the entire thing before I bought those things, just because I guess I thought if I have this small amount of money to spend, I want to make sure that it's the thing that I want the most. Of thing.
Yeah.
There was two yarn places selling yarn, and one was Fibre Smith, which I've seen them online, but I've never seen them at a market in person. And the other one I can't remember, but apparently they're quite frequently at the Finders Keepers, and they were selling yarn, but also like finished garments.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I feel like I mean, I didn't go to the Finders Keepers this year, but I feel like previously when I've been, it seems to be it's not really, I think it's directed, or like their sort of target demographic is people who like sort of like the aesthetic of like handmade things, but aren't necessarily like makers themselves.
Yeah, like I've never seen somewhere selling like fabric, or
I think maybe I have seen one stall selling fabric, but they also were selling like made like clothing
finished
and bags
items
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like if you go to like a yarn market where it's definitely
supplies,
supplies and like their sort of target demographic is makers kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's the vendors that are makers rather than the customers. Yeah, that is what I bought at the Finders Keepers. And then in terms of other dream weaving, both of us, I think, need to get our skates on a little bit and pick some projects to make. Our like very close friends who are having a baby. The baby is due sort of
20th of December.
Yeah, end of December. So need to get a bit of a wriggle on with that. I haven't really made any sort of progress in choosing a project.
I was thinking about maybe just doing a blanket because I do have some I think it's Sheepy's Chunky Monkey, which is like an acrylic yarn, so it would be suitable for like a baby project because it will be machine washable. And that's something that I think I'm going to get you to help me with after this, and maybe we can just put a photo in
like
the final
colour palette.
Yeah, because I've got quite a few different colours, so I think probably I have like too many colours to include them all.
Yeah.
So I'll probably just get you to help me.
One project that I sort of did consider is the blanket that I made last, or the year before last, for our nephew Mungo. It was that rainbow sampler. She's actually released now a version 2 of that. So the designer is Hakma Rak, and that's her website name. I think her name is either Kirsten or Kristen, but I can't quite remember. I'll just put it in the notes. Balarang, I feel like, is her surname, but could be wrong, could be making that up. But she's released another one. So basically the idea of this is that it's sort of a crochet blanket that has these sort of rainbow, like different coloured stripes, and each colour is like a different texture, so it's a different stitch. And I was thinking, because they said their sort of overall theme of the nursery is green, to instead of doing like a rainbow, just use like different shades of green. But if you're going to be doing a blanket, it might just be a bit sort of silly to give 2 blankets. So the other thing that Kim, our friend, said that she was like, you don't have to make anything, and we would obviously love anything that you make. But one thing that we would quite like is some sort of toys that they could hang to make like a mobile. So that's the other thing that I was thinking of, to find some cute sort of amigurumi. And I guess if their theme was green, I could even find some patterns for things that would be like, I don't know, like a frog and...
Yeah, or I guess if you're
like
going to have sort
green,
of like a kind of a foresty theme, maybe some like birds or something.
Yeah, birds could be nice, and you could do those.
I guess birds also like fly, so it kind of makes sense.
That they're hanging in the air kind of thing. Yeah. So I was thinking about that. Or the other thing that I was thinking about was I did make a mobile for another friend who had a baby with some jellyfish. And she said that he is just like obsessed with it. And actually she told me, actually weirdly, she had some friends over who also had babies, and like
they were all obsessed.
She said in particular one of them was like obsessed with it, like it kept like sort of like touching it and pulling on the tentacles and stuff. And then I think the baby was kind of like quite upset when they had to leave, and like they couldn't take it. And she was kind of like, honestly, she was so like entranced by it that if it hadn't have been like a handmade gift, like if it was just something that I just bought at a shop, she would have been like, honestly, you can just take it, like if your kid likes it this much, you can just have it. But she was like, but because it was a handmade gift,
it kind of has a bit of sentiment,
didn't really want to give it away.
That could be a business idea for you, making these enchanting jellyfish mobiles.
No, I don't think you could sell them for like the amount of time that you put into it. But
that's true.
So that was
I suppose the like that stitch sample one, because it has all the different stitches like with like different textures, so that would be quite sort of interesting for like babies.
Yeah, I think anything with like different texture,
like if it has little like bobbles and
stuff,
stuff,
that they can sort of like touch and feel it all. So yeah, the baby stuff, and then our other dream weaving. I think our dream weaving today is like really a joint dream weaving.
Yes.
Our birthday is coming soon in a couple of weeks, and it's on a Friday, so we're kind of thinking to maybe see if Heather from the Sowry,
now that her studio is in
Templestowe, the Art Weaver Studio, which is a Sowry weaving, which is like a Japanese weaving technique that we've done a couple of her workshops before. We wouldn't mind just spending our birthday doing that instead
like
of
a fun little gift to ourselves
instead of going to work.
Because I took a roster day off, so I've got the day off.
So that was one of our dream weavings, is to do a birthday weaving workshop. And then the other dream weaving, which is a bit more futuristic or in the future,
you're not like going on a spaceship or anything,
was we were thinking of going to Adelaide early next year.
Also known as Radelaide.
Radelaide. Apparently they don't like being called Radelaide.
Oh, really? I thought it would have been something that they came up with themselves.
No, apparently
like saying that like Adelaide is rad, like it's cool.
Yeah, I know. No, but apparently there was something that they were like, stop calling us Radelaide, and then the rest of Australia was like, well, fine, we'll call you
Badelaide
or Sadelaide. But anyways, we were thinking of going to Adelaide,
which is a city in South Australia. So,
and we were thinking of actually going there from Melbourne, like on the train, the overland train.
It takes about 10 hours during the day, though, so you do get to see
sort of like the countryside, and so that'll be fun. And then I think we'd fly back, not do the train,
because I guess 10
both
hours
ways.
is probably a bit long to go both ways.
And because the reason, like Pia suggested for us to go there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just something that I was like, this is just like a sign from the universe that we should do this. Because I think you've always sort of like been, or not always, but like recently sort of like, I won't say fantasizing, but just sort of maybe a bit romanticizing, I suppose, like regional train travel and like wanting to go on like a regional train. And then I feel like when we were at a friend's birthday party, someone was being like, oh yeah, we should totally do like a road trip, but like a train trip to Adelaide and go on the train. And then I had a work colleague who was in Adelaide recently because they went to catch blue swimmer crabs, because it's like the season for blue swimmer crabs apparently, and they're like I suppose a bit of a delicacy. But while they were there, they put up some photos of, how do you say the name,
Chihuly, yeah.
The glass artist from the US. There's like an exhibition of his works at the Adelaide Botanic Gardens, which I think one of our friends also was saying at this lunch.
Oh, were they?
Yeah. Emma was like, oh, the best thing about Adelaide is like they have the best botanic gardens.
Oh,
and
yes, I do remember that.
Like, oh, and they've got this like cool exhibition. Like, we should totally go. And then when I said, oh, would anyone be interested in this? When should we go? And then Anna was like, oh, there's like a yarn like fibre event. I think we're about to have a special guest join us. It's Julie, say hi.
But yeah, so Pia was like, would you be interested in going to Adelaide to see this exhibition? And like we could go on the train, because I'm just going to unplug the computer cable so she doesn't trip over it. You want to come to Adelaide, Julie? Yeah, we're going on the train. Yeah, like, would you be interested? And I was like, oh, let me look up. Like, I know that there's like a fibre festival in Adelaide. Like, let me look up when it is, because if it would be at the same time. So yes, it's like going on the train, going to see this glass thing, going to the Adelaide Fibre Feast.
And then it also turns out that the weekend that this Fibre Feast is on
the Fringe
is
Festival
also when
as well.
Adelaide Fringe Festival is on
for a bit.
Yeah,
I'll just give you a bit more room.
Julie wants to climb up. Which you've never been either. Like, I don't think either of us have ever been to the Adelaide Fringe Festival, but I think they just have sort of like events of like, different types of, art, dance, comedy, like different. So we just kind of figured if we go to Adelaide
like
that weekend,
a perfect storm of like
that we will definitely be able to fill a weekend of like
stuff,
things to do.
And so this glass, Dale Chihuly, he's like a glass blowing artist, I think. So he makes all these really cool sculptures, and his like main, I don't know, gallery or whatever is called Chihuly Gardens and Glass in Seattle. And I actually went there a couple of years ago when I went to a conference in Seattle, and to be honest, it was probably like my favourite thing about the trip.
Oh,
not that the conference was bad, but like just his sculptures are like so cool. He also made the ceiling of the Bellagio Hotel in Las Vegas. So if anyone's ever been there, that will...
careful, Julie, careful.
Just repositioning herself.
Maybe I should get this off my lap because...
Yeah, you don't want her to accidentally poke herself with a knitting needle.
Yeah, and I don't want her to like draw on it.
We want you to be safe, Juliette. So yes, I guess if anyone has any recommendations for other things in Adelaide, or if you will be going to Fibre Feast in Adelaide, let us know, because it would be cool to like meet up. I think probably Ali from Fibrebound, I think she will definitely be there because she's from Adelaide.
Okay.
So I think it's highly likely that we would get to see her.
And I suppose it'll just be cool because I feel like all those sort of like yarn markets and stuff that we've been to, like in and around Melbourne, or I suppose even the one in Castlemaine, like I suppose they're probably predominantly Victorian based.
I think so, yeah. So just to see some that we haven't seen before will be cool. But yeah, welcome any recommendations, even just like nice places for dinner. I think we haven't booked the accommodation yet, but we'll probably stay somewhere like fairly close to the city centre.
But we'll probably try and book it fairly soon, because I guess if it is from what I have heard, like the Adelaide Fringe Festival is very popular, and a lot of people travel to Adelaide like during the Fringe Festival specifically for that. So
so we better
try and
get on to that.
Book it fairly soon.
So that's really our Dreamweaving. Don't really have any specific patterns or anything, but just a bunch of yarn adjacent
I feel like
things.
this Adelaide thing is the sort of thing that like normally it would have just stayed a pipe dream forever, like catching a regional train, but just there seems to be so many like factors like pointing to going on that specific weekend being like a good idea that it will actually happen.
Yes.
Isn't it, Julie?
Yes. Julie believes in us. But that's probably about it for this episode. So we will be off to have some cuddles and a cup of tea with Juliette.
And Susie. Susie's just a bit camera shy.
Yes.
I think Juliette likes to be included in the podcast a bit more.
Yes. I think Juliette likes... Susie
seems to be always at the end. She
comes in.
She's like enough chit chat and time for cuddles.
Juliette likes to be on the couch when other people are on the couch, whereas Susie likes to be on the couch when she has the couch to herself. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think Susie will get up here like by herself, and then if you sit down next to her and like pat her, like
she's okay.
With she enjoys it or whatever, but. She's not really like Julie, who like seems to like climb on to the couch like specifically
because she wants to
specifically to get cuddles.
So yes, thank you for watching our video. Thank you from Juliette as well. Thank you for watching her cute little face.
There we go.
If you're not subscribed and you like the video, please do consider subscribing to our channel. We always like to see new faces on our channel or new people in our comments. If you did like the video, it's just like a free way to help out our channel, to give the video a thumbs up. It just shares it with more people. And yes, in the comments, we would definitely appreciate any recommendations that you have for things to do in Adelaide. We haven't decided if we'll do either 2 nights or 3 nights.
But probably just like a long weekend, because the train, I guess, like when we arrive is a bit limited by the train schedule, because I think the train only goes twice a week. I can't remember if it's like a Tuesday and a Friday. So we'll leave Melbourne on a Friday. And arrive there sort of Friday evening,
and then it's just whether or not we go home on Sunday evening or Monday evening. That's what we haven't quite figured out yet, but I guess we have a little bit of time to figure it out. But yes, that is all for today. Our next episode is going to be a knit and chat, and we went to the Royal Melbourne Show, to the sort of craft competitions there, and filmed a few of the entries. So I think our next knit and chat, we might share some of the sort of video that we took at the Royal Melbourne Show, so that will be our next episode in a few weeks. And apart from that, we wish you, what do we wish people, Juliette?
Happy stitching. I don't want to like force her head.
No.
She's not looking at the camera.
Juliette does wish you. Oh, there she is.
Happy stitching.
Happy stitching from Juliette and from us as well. Bye.